Okay, so just a kind of an overview of the first video that we did. To find the equation of a line, that's your clue right there. Anytime they ask you, find the equation of a line, we could even abbreviate TFTE. Anytime we have TFTE, find the equation, you need two things. You need a point, you need the slope. Gotta have it. Always. Then plug it into point slope form every time. Do some a little arithmetic and you end up with equation of a line in slope intercept form. So you go from point slope form, the big equation, and you find slope intercept form, the little equation. And you can graph from there. Every time you always go back to this. So this back page, find the slope and y-intercept of the line with equation. So this is an equation, kind of going backwards here. You can't really say that 4 is your slope because it's not in slope-intercept form. But we can put it in slope-intercept form by solving for y. So if I wanted to solve for y, we'd have to subtract 4x from both sides. So we end up with 5y equal negative 4x minus 10, which is kind of ugly, but that's what it is. And then divide both sides by 5. So we have negative 4/5 x minus 10 over 5. Can I reduce that? I think I can. Y equal negative 4/5 x minus 5 goes into 10 two times. Or you can do it on your calculator. So what is my slope? If it's in y equal mx plus b form, my slope is negative 4/5. Negative slope, so it'll be going downhill. My y-intercept is right here, negative 2. So my y-intercept, 0, negative 2. And I can graph it from a point and the slope. So 0, negative 2. There's my y-intercept every time. And then apply my slope. I think I'm going to go down 4 and then a positive 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 down, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the positive. A negative slope is a downhill line. And that's it. Backwards. Number 5 says from the graph, and if you want to, keep pausing the video and you work it ahead of me. And then go back and see if you got the right answers. And remember, in your margin, you can mark the questions that you have. From the graph, find the slope. Okay, well, I know that a slope is the change in y over the change in x between 2 points on a line. But that's all I know. I don't know anything about points or anything. I know my slope is negative because it's going downhill. Find my y-intercept, my x-intercept, and the equation. Okay, so let's see. I don't know my slope. How about my y-intercept? Is there a point along the y-axis that the line crosses? Yeah, it crosses right there. At negative 1. Okay. And my x-intercept, does it cross my x-axis? Yes, it does, when x is negative 3. So you could find your slope 2 different ways. You could either do it the old-fashioned way, y minus y over x minus x. Y minus a negative 1 over negative 3 minus 0 would be positive 1 and a negative 3, but your slope would be negative 1/3. Or you could count. You could go up 1 and then you can go back 3 in your own line. So either way, you could figure it out. So slope is negative 1/3. And I hope you've realized by now to put it into y equal mx plus b form, which I'm going to put down here, slope-intercept form, you got all the information you need. My slope is negative 1/3, so negative 1/3 x plus b. Well, what is my y-intercept? It's negative 1 minus 1. So you may want to practice that. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about are parallel and perpendicular lines. Let's talk about what they are first. Parallel lines are lines that run side by side, and they're equidistant apart. That's a set of parallel lines. That's a set of parallel lines. I've already done that one. This is a set of parallel lines. They run parallel to each other. So they will never meet. They'll never cross. And it makes sense. This has a negative slope. This has a negative slope. These look like their slopes are 0. These have positive slopes. And if they're equidistant apart, their slopes are going to be exactly the same. So parallel lines have the same exact slope, which stands to reason. If you know the slope of this line, then you automatically know the slope of any of the parallel lines. Perpendicular, for those of you who may not remember, perpendicular lines intersect and form 90-degree angles. So obviously their slopes are not going to be the same. But you can tell what they are. They have opposite reciprocal slopes. That's perpendicular. I don't know if y'all had geometry, if you loved it, if you hated it, if you were good at it or not. But that's geometry term, perpendicular. You could have a line going this way and a perpendicular one coming in like this. Their slopes would be opposite reciprocals. When we talk about opposite, we're talking about opposite signs. Plus as opposed to negative. Reciprocal means flip it. If you've got 1/3, then its reciprocal would be 3/1. If you have 4/5, then its reciprocal is 5/4. When we talk about opposite, we're talking about opposite signs. If you have a positive 1/3 for slope in one line, then in its perpendicular line, it would be negative 3/1. If a line has slope of negative 4/5, then any line perpendicular to it would have positive 5/4 slopes. So that information is useful if you don't have the slope of a line, or if you only have information in another line, but you got to find the equation of its parallel. So, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Right here it says write an equation of the line. So obviously you know you need a point and the slope, just like my pink sheet says. Remember, to find the equation of line, you need point and slope, and we're going to have to plug it into point slope form. So let's see if we have the information we need. The line through the point to -1. So yay, we got that information. And it's parallel to that line. So unfortunately, I do not have the slope, but I do know a key word is parallel. Parallel to this one. So if I put it in y equal mx plus b form, I'll have the slope, because I know that parallel lines have same slope. Oh, gracious. So let's solve for y again. Divide everything by -3. There goes my voice. So y equal negative 5/3. Negative divided by negative is a positive. I didn't really write it in the right form. It doesn't really matter. I can rewrite it. Positive 2/3 x minus 5/3. So slope of the parallel would be positive 2/3. So knowing that, the slope of my perpendicular, if it's opposite reciprocals, this slope is positive. So perpendicular would be negative. And a reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2. So if I want to find the equation of the line that's parallel, y minus the y value equal the slope times x minus the x value. We can distribute, it'd be 2/3 x, 2 times negative 2 is a negative 4/3. And subtract a 1 from both sides. 2/3 x minus 4/3 minus 1. Let's grab that handy dandy calculator again. And you can do it by changing 1 to 3/3, which is how I usually do it. Negative 4 divided by 3. Negative 4/3 minus 1. It's going to be a negative 2.3, and I can change that to fraction form, and I've got negative 7/3. So 2/3 x and a negative 7/3. So there's my equation of the parallel line. And we do the same thing with perpendicular. Y minus a negative 1. Opposite reciprocal. You see, this x and the y values are the same because that's my point. Negative 3/2 x. Negative 3 times negative 2 is a positive 6. Well, I don't have to use calculator for that. Let me subtract 1. Negative 3/2 x. 6/2 is 3. And then you've got your minus 1. And there's my line for my perpendicular. Let's graph those. If I graph my regular line, here it is. Find my intercept, which is negative 5/3. Negative 5 divided by 3 is a negative 1.6. So my y-intercept is about right there, up 2/3. So I'm not quite to the line. I'm kind of in between. I'm having to kind of guess. And negative 5/3, negative 1, right there. Okay, so here's my original line that I'm given. My parallel line, we go to negative 7/3 is negative 2.3. Negative 2.3. So negative 2.3 is right there. And go up 2 and over 3. So there is the parallel line. Does it go through point 2, negative 1? Yes, it does. Right there through the point it said. And the perpendicular would be x-intercept is 2, or y-intercept, I'm sorry. And we go down 3, because it's negative, over 2, and we're right there at the point 2, negative 1. So that is the perpendicular. So it worked out great. I love